When respect leaves the room, it never exits loudly. It creates no echo triggers, no argument, and offers no warning. It simply evaporates, leaving you standing in a vacuum you haven't yet recognized. You sense the atmospheric shift before you see the behavioral evidence. You notice a slight delay in a response, a flattening of tone, or the way someone begins looking through you instead of at you. Most men misread this silent withdrawal as a temporary emotional fluctuation. They assume it is a mood to be managed or a misunderstanding to be clarified. This is a fatal diagnostic error. What you are experiencing is not a mood swing, it is a structural recalibration. You are undergoing a silent audit. In the mind of the observer, the version of you that commanded attention is being overwritten by a version that can be safely ignored. The natural instinct is to speak up to explain your intent or to negotiate for the regard you used to hold effortlessly, but explaining yourself to a system that has already downgraded your status does not restore value, it accelerates the erosion. It confirms that you are now the one petitioning for position. To reverse this drift, we must stop reacting to the symptoms of indifference and start analyzing the mechanics of the loss. We need to dissect exactly how the architecture of your authority collapsed, and why your attempt to fix it is the very thing keeping you powerless. Respect does not fall suddenly, it erodes slowly, quietly, in moments so small you don't even realize what they meant until much later. When you finally replay the conversations, the expressions and the hesitations, the most painful truth is this. Once respect is gone, it almost never returns. Not because you didn't try hard enough, or because you didn't improve, but because the version of you they lost respect for is the version their mind refuses to update. You are living in chapter 12, but in their mind, you are trapped in chapter 4. This is the concept of the psychological snapshot. When someone decides you are low status, they take a mental snapshot of that weakness and that image becomes static. To understand why this happens, we must look at the 3 structural causes of respect erosion. These are not emotional reasons, they are mechanical failures in the power dynamic. The first cause is the collapse of boundaries, or what I call low resistance. When someone senses that you stand firm on nothing, that you bend too easily, that you tolerate behavior that disrespects your time or dignity, their brain labels you as low resistance. Humans instinctively respect the people who protect their own space. We respect those who say no without guilt, who correct disrespect immediately. The moment you stop enforcing boundaries, people don't see you as kind, they see you as convenient. And convenience kills respect faster than conflict ever could. The second cause is predictability. When your reactions become obvious, when your emotions become fully accessible, when your patterns become readable, you lose a layer of psychological power. People subconsciously respect those whose inner world they cannot fully map. Mystery is power, clarity is comfort. When someone knows exactly how you will respond, you stop being a person with depth and start being a script they have already memorized. Predictable people are easy to manipulate, easy to dismiss, and easy to overlook. The more predictable you are, the more invisible you become. The third cause is imbalance. This occurs when you give more than you receive. When you show effort, they don't return. You create a psychological debt, but not in your favor. Instead of appreciating you, they subconsciously downgrade you because the brain interprets unequal investment as unequal value. You give too much, you must be worth less. You try too hard, you must need validation. The mind twists generosity into weakness. Once this structural shift occurs, the darker behaviors begin. These are what we call dominant scans. A tone you have never heard appears. It is sharper, colder, carrying an edge that wasn't there before. They test you. They push your limits. They interrupt you mid-sentence to see if you will let it slide. A joke becomes an insult, but they disguise it with a smile. These are not random actions. They are small probes designed to measure how much power they now hold. And if you don't push back, they push further. If you don't reclaim your space, they claim more of it. This is the core of the manipulation layer. It doesn't always come from malice. Most of the time, it comes from instinct, a subconscious power recalibration. People treat you according to the role they believe you play. And when you slip into a submissive role, they begin acting from a dominant one. The tragedy is that most men try to fix this structural problem with emotional tools. They ask what is wrong. They apologize for things they didn't do. They try to be nicer, cooler, more available. They try to explain their worth. But you cannot negotiate your worth. You cannot beg someone's mind to update the picture they painted of you. Explaining appeals to understanding, but position responds to structure. You don't regain leverage by explaining how you feel. You regain leverage by changing what happens next. This brings us to the only solution that works: the transition from expression to containment. You may not be able to restore their respect, but you can reclaim your power. And when you reclaim your power, respect becomes irrelevant. You regain power by tightening your frame, by standing taller, speaking slower, choosing your words with precision, by removing apologies that were never necessary and taking back time that was never appreciated. You create distance, a psychological space that demands attention. You stop being emotionally naked. You stop explaining yourself to the wrong audiences. You let silence do the talking. You let absence do the teaching. Distance creates scarcity. Scarcity creates value. Value creates respect, even from those who can no longer admit it. You begin saying no without guilt. You stop entertaining conversations that drain you. You walk away from situations that used to hold you hostage. You stop reacting emotionally and start observing internally. This internal shift becomes external dominance. When you do this, the dynamic reverses. They notice the silence first, then the distance, then the absence of your old patterns. And when someone becomes used to your softness, your strength becomes terrifying. Some will try to regain your attention. Some will pretend nothing changed. Some will try to pull you back into the role they preferred. But none of that matters, because your new identity is no longer built on what they see. It is built on what you have become. You must accept the reality that the respect they lost was the price of a version of you that no longer exists. You cannot make someone respect you again, but you can become someone whose presence naturally commands respect. Not by force, not by fear, but by the quiet power of someone who no longer needs approval to exist. When you reach that level, people who lost respect for you will feel something far heavier than guilt. They will feel the weight of being denied access to a version of you they never believed you could become. They will remember the comfort of your old self, the self that tolerated too much, gave too much, tried too hard, and they will realize too late that the respect they lost was the price of admission to a person they will never see again. Respect may not return, but your power will, and when it does, you will not waste a second wondering who finally noticed. You will be too busy becoming someone who can never be underestimated again.